All right, folks, Kenny Smith, Total Force Holdings. Got my nifty rubber training pistol here today because I really don't feel like clearing out my carry gun. We're going to talk about ready positions, transports, carries, things of that nature for the handgun. All right. First off, where is the most likely transport or carry that you're going to find? All right. In the holster. All right. Like right now, my actual carry gun is in my everyday carry holster. Right there. All right. Maybe it's in the appendix position. Maybe it's on the hip, behind the hip. You might be one of those crazy people that want to carry on the small of the back. That's a spinal injury waiting to happen, so I'm not a fan. But if that's how you want to carry, do you. It's your spine, not mine. All right. Maybe you're wearing a shoulder rig, carrying in a pocket, carrying on an ankle, belly band, whatever. The number one place your handgun is going to find itself is in the holster. Simple holster carry, right? Well, what about when the weapon comes out of the holster? All right. There's one that I've actually used quite a bit, and that would be like a covert ready. My weapon has come out of the holster, and it's back here about where my wallet is behind my leg. Now, if I don't know you're coming by my house, this is how I'm answering the door, right? My weapon is out. I don't have to draw it. It's out of sight. It's a covert ready, okay? It's not in a position where I'm necessarily escalating things, but I'm in a hell of a lot higher state of readiness than I might be if I was still in the holster, okay? So you got a covert ready. The next one, maybe you're holding a corner, like a law enforcement officer on a perimeter or something, and you've got what we would have called in the Marine Corps an alert carry. Now, I don't believe in locking the elbows out. I'll compress things in. And the reason for that is simple. The more you hold joints straight out, the more of this that happens, the more muscular tension you're building up, right? The more lactic acid is going to be built up in those muscles, and it's going to burn gas that you don't need to burn. So, I might compress in a little bit here, all right, instead of this. This is what a lot of people will refer to as a low ready, and you can already see the problem here. To get that on target, I've got to cover quite a bit of distance, right? And I understand, yeah, you can do it pretty quick, but we're going to kind of move on about that. You got a low ready or an alert carry. Pick your poison. I don't refer to this as low ready. I'll call this an alert carry, all right? And I might compress it somewhat, all right? Just because this allows me a tighter package so I can get a little bit tighter to cover if I need to. Cover or concealment, whatever the case may be. So, from here, if you need to move around a non-combatant or a friendly, all right? Understand, there's three types of people involved in a fight. A non-combatant, a hostile combatant, and a friendly combatant. Two of those you do not need to be pointing your weapon at. That would be a friendly combatant, someone on your side of the fight, and a non-combatant, someone who is not involved whatsoever, all right? So you don't want to be flagging non-combatants. You certainly don't want to be flagging friendly combatants. But if you need to move close to them, you would move to what would be a position sul, right? So you got your weapon down here in your alert carry. You've compressed it a little bit because you think you're going to be there a while. And you need to go, like you've got maybe a relief officer coming up behind you, right? All I'm going to do is I'm going to fold that weapon in, put my support hand on my chest, let it roll, and I can move on about my business. My muzzle's pointed at the ground. I'm not going to flag anybody, all right? So all I've really done is I broke my wrist. Can you keep your wrist intact? Sure. Flag your elbow up. All right, if you want to keep your shooting grip intact, flag your elbow up a little bit. You can absolutely work sul that way if you're going to use it quickly. For me, a low ready is what we call the ready carry in the Marine Corps, right? You got your weapon up out on target and you lower it just low enough to where you can see what you want to see. Now, if you're up really close, right, that might be, I need to see hands, and I've got my sights on my image on my laptop here. All right, right there, I can see my hands over my weapon. I need to see hands. I need to see waistline. Okay, that's where and I'm maybe 6 feet from my computer. Okay, and I'm there. So all I've done is I've just brought my weapon just slightly out of my line of sight. It's not a very big thing. I've got a bullseye target on my wall over here. 10 ring, clear of the full target. I mean, it is not far. And that might be, I don't know, 6 inches coming down. And you can see, now I'm just going to use to my center chest here. Sights on center chest, clear belt line. It is not a big movement. All right. This, I'm not a fan of because of this, which is faster. Coming from a 45 degree down, or probably can't even perceive it moving, okay? And if you do, it's not much. You don't move faster by moving faster. You move faster by moving less. But now we need to look at some of the problems with depressing the muzzle. All right? I've got no issue with depressing the muzzle in general, unless some of those non-combatants or friendly combatants are below the level of your shoulders. What does that mean? You're working a multiple floor entry. All right, maybe it's something like shipboarding, go-plat stuff. If you know what that is, you know. If not, don't worry about it. Or clearing a multi-story building, especially wood frame, like most multi-story houses. If you know you've got guys on the first floor, right, this is probably a bad idea, right? Because if that weapon fires, it's going to go somewhere. Conversely, if you know you've got people above you, muzzle up might not exactly be the best idea. Sometimes you're just damned if you do and damned if you don't, in which case your SOP or whatever you feel most comfortable with or whatever most secures those in your immediate surroundings are what you need to look for. So, for a while, I used to be really big on muzzle down. Really big. And then, this is about a little bit more than 10 years, well, around 10 years ago. 9 and change, 10 years ago, somewhere in there. One of my best friends, I was spending a whole lot of time with her, and more importantly, her son, who was very, very young and running around. And I got to thinking, if I need to get my gun out and I go muzzle down, I could very easily end up, because I'm watching what's out here, and be muzzling his head. And that's a party foul. So I started looking more towards muzzle up. Muzzle up. So, and the muzzle up side kind of actually comes more from dealing with a rifle. So I'm going to get my rifle for this. Go ahead and clear that out. Because this is a live weapon. I don't know how well y'all see that, but it is clear, right? So, muzzle down is fine, right? But I kind of got partial to muzzle up because I can just press the weapon out and let it roll into my shoulder. I'm eyes, muzzle, then target, making getting my sights on a little bit easier for me. So I always like muzzle up with a rifle when I could, but due to SOPs at times, that wasn't always possible. Hot weapon. All right. So again, due to SOP, muzzle up wasn't always possible, but I always kind of preferred it. It just made a lot more sense to me. So I started taking the same idea with a pistol. And now we think about, as I draw my weapon, I'm in my thumb pectoral index, and I'm pressing out so I can get on my front sight. We discussed this in drawing the pistol in a previous video, right? Why wouldn't I use a similar concept for my ready position? So at most, I'm going to be muzzle straight out, right? Because this is close to where I would be drawing the weapon normally. But if I need to change my muzzle orientation, if I bring my elbows to my body and put my front sight basically where the end of my nose is, that front sight's just going to fall into my rear notch, right? Or I can very easily roll the gun if I'm running an optic and need it parallel at the top by just kind of hunching over and then extending back out. So a high ready starts to make a lot of sense. And then another thing that got me to thinking about this, one of the tasks that I had at a previous security gig was checking vacant apartments. You know, you sit there and you say, okay, doors open, whatever, go make sure no one's squatting in there. A couple of them were 2-story. And I don't know how many of y'all have ever tried to clear a stairwell, but it's a whole lot of not fun to fight your way uphill in a confined space. Never had that happen, go crazy in there, but I had some experiences with Meltdown and got ate the fuck up with munitions by doing stuff like this. So I kind of like having my muzzle in the same direction of where I'm looking. So if you're going up, the muzzle should probably be up. Conversely, if you're going down those stairwells, the muzzle should probably be down. Because where you already are, you understand whether it's clear or unclear. If it's uncleared, it is presumed to have a threat within there, or that's where the threat is most likely to come from, right? So why wouldn't you have eyes, muzzle, then target? So that kind of got me thinking, and I started getting used to working around corners, going high and stuff like that, just in my own training, not at work. So just little things like that. And it just gradually got to be where I started liking muzzle up. And there again, remember, my best friend's little boy was around for a while. So if I go muzzle up, well, even still, and that was 10 years ago, well, 11, he's shorter than me, so I'm not muzzling him here in a more of a high ready position. And I think it's actually a little bit faster to just press out than raise from a low ready. So what if you need to turn, right? To turn, like we did with position soul, but you want to be muzzle up. Tempo index, right? What I'm doing is I'm taking my thumb, my flagged up thumb, here, and I'm basically sticking my thumb in my ear. So I can turn. Now, notice, with a tempo index, I'm not camping out here, okay? I'm not just going to stick here. This might be, all right, I've got that relief guy coming up because maybe I'm watching a second story window. I've got a relief guy coming up. He squeezes my shoulder. And now I can go on ahead about going to where I need to go, right? And I'm just bringing this weapon here so I know that I'm not going to flag him because I know where it's pointed. All right, so you've got really in the holster, more of a covert ready. Another one, and I don't have a ball cap or something out here that you can do, is if you go to position soul, if you're worried about something going crazy, you can absolutely take your ball cap off. And I don't have a ball cap available, but I do have a Safariland holster paddle. Hold it by the brim, right? And just kind of cover it up. And then if you need to deploy, drop it and press out. Okay? It does work a lot better with an actual hat, but alas, I don't have a actual hat out here with me right now. So you can absolutely hide soul. You can go behind the leg. If you're answering your door, one thing that I'll do is I might sit there, and when I go to answer the door, I've got my hand like this with my weapon in it just inside the door frame, and then I can lean on my hand and bring my arm up so it looks like I'm just leaning on my forearm if I need to. But that's a little bit different, right? But that's still a staged position. If I want to be muzzle down, might be behind my leg. I might lean against the wall and bring it up to a higher position if I wanted to. But those are a covered or covert ready position, and you can absolutely use either one of them. An alert carry or relaxed alert carry, which is my preference, that absolutely works. A low ready, a high ready, and you can go ahead and compress that all the way back if you need to. All right. There is one more position built in here, and we covered this during the drawing of the weapon video, and that's the thumb pectoral index or retention position. Notice my muzzle is clear of my hand. I'll keep my hand on my chest in training, but understand, real world, this hand's going to be trying to get a hold of a head, pull them down into a clench, right? And because the grip frame of my weapon is against my ribs, it will be extremely difficult for me to point that muzzle at myself. The further back on your ribs you go, the safer this hand is. So, on the low side, holster, covert ready, alert carry, relaxed alert carry, soul, take your hat off, covered soul or covert soul, low ready, and thumb pectoral index, because notice that muzzle is angled down. Those would be your low positions. Pressing out from high, you've got a compressed high ready, a high ready, and sights on target. All right? So those are your ready positions, transports, or carries for the pistol. All right? So where does it go? In the holster or in one of those positions we just talked about? Oh, and one more high, tempo index, but remember, you're just breezing through that one. You're not staying here. You're not standing here talking on a cell phone, okay? You're just here to turn and get clear of something and going about your business. So there it is. Y'all stay safe. Y'all stay dangerous. Stay in the fight.